All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to do our 4 hour sweep here. Take a look at our structure, see what's above us, what's below us, what are our important key points for the week, what are we looking for, what has changed since last week, how can we put some pips in the bag. So let's just get right into it. We'll start with Buckhorn. Good game, Buckhorn. It's still up. It's not dead yet. Not really a lot's changed since last week, which could be a good thing. It is down, it looks like the last 24 hours or so sold off and retested the low. That's not a surprise. You can see, the lows just in its simplest form, just a 30,000 foot view here. You can kind of see where the low of the range is. It's just a big range is all it is. It's this. It's just a big range and that's it. Now the question is going to be, is this going to hold and try to go retest the high or not to that known issue up there where the Hunger Games begins, and may the odds be ever in your favor. But at the moment, it's one of those things where I definitely wouldn't sell it here. But I look at this like on the macro structure, and it just again, to me personally, it's just not the best place to make a long-term investment in Bitcoin. It's just not. We know how to trade this thing, and this ain't it. But it's good game if you're up. Good game if you're already in it and long. It's not a short. It's not a short. It's just there's not much to report here, to be honest. I don't know what I would do with it. Probably. If we're looking for a day trade or something, I don't know. I might wait for the next 4 hour candle, see if it dips. And for a day trade, I'd probably rather be long than short. I'll be the first one to admit that. But at the same time, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin, like this is let's buy it before the bull run, it may not be the best time to do that. And that's just a personal take on it, but based in reality. We just have to be more realistic about our expectations with Bitcoin. That's it. Good game. We want it to go up, but we need to be realistic about our expectations. That's always been the call for years. That is my general overview on Bitcoin as a whole, is be realistic about your expectations. Understand what it is and what it isn't, and be honest with yourself, and you will do fine with it. As of right now, not really much to do. It may not be the best thing to trade as a day trade instrument right now. And there are multiple reasons for that. And that's a good segue into its positive correlation with the U.S. equities market, like the S&P and the Dow, NASDAQ. We all know that they're positively correlated and have been for the last couple of years. Because they're traded as a risk. Bitcoin is traded as a risk asset. It's like, buy a little Tesla, buy a little Ethereum, buy a little AMC, little GameStop, maybe some Bitcoin, maybe some Dogecoin. It's Wall Street bets now, it's not the weekend crypto warriors like it used to be, where everybody traded on Saturday and Sunday. The demographic of the Bitcoin trader has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. It's Wall Street bets now, and not the hardcore techies. It's in the weekend warriors. Like it's different, and that's okay. That's actually good because it's predictable. When there's a clear correlation with another asset class, that's great because it's predictable, right? And predictable is profitable. We say this all the time. So as of right now, just be cautious because of where the U.S. equities market is, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We have an all-time high on the Dow Jones, and I believe we hit it on the NASDAQ on futures. So there's your sign right there. So I think that tells you where we're going with it. So just be cautious. Caution is the word of the week here. We are back on the low. There's not really much to say. We won't spend too much time on it. Not going to go into altcoins right now. It's not time for that yet. I'm sure some alts are up because Bitcoin's up and holding. When Bitcoin runs up and starts to distribute sideways and kind of hold, a lot of alts slosh up with it. So that's good. Good game if you got some gains on crypto right now. Protect it. That's the call. Protect your gains. Try not to let stuff run against you too hard, because that could happen. Like, and historically it has, given where we are in the cycle. Moving on. 4-hour chart on the dollar. Where are we on the dollar here? Okay, so this was an easy decision last week. We got this right. Nailed it. Nothing to say. We nailed it. We were euro dollar short, pound dollar short, crushed it. That was, I think, the best trade last week, other than pound CAD and euro CAD. But euro dollar short and pound dollar short were great. We just caught it on the lower low, in demand, but there were some other reasons. We had exceeded our ranges, and there's a lot of other stuff. There were many different reasons to be long here. Right there is where we timed some other assets with the dollar index. Ended up being right. So good game. Good game there. Nothing really to do at the moment. We kind of got a gap up here. I don't know. We'll see what's up with that. There's a previous equilibrium right there. It's a lower time frame thing on what that line is. Doesn't really make sense on the 4-hour chart. Structure wise, this is not bad. I mean, the thing that makes sense, I could certainly see, some kind of extended consolidation forming like this. Whatever's going to happen here, we're going to watch it and see on direction. Is this going to try to break the low one more time and go? But I think eventually we're probably going to end up here somewhere. It feels like we're still lifting off the low a little bit, but it's already moved, and it's not really a good entry long right now. It's not the best entry long. This is one of those where we're going to have to watch this. We were just talking in the group a minute ago about the news situation this week. We're basically heading into the end of the year. It's Christmas time. This week is basically the run up to Christmas. I believe it's next Monday. So you would expect lower volatility and less overall intraday movement. There's not a lot of news this week. We got a couple 8:30 news events on different days, but no big, huge volatility events, but that's okay. It doesn't mean the market's not going to move. Not really much to say here. There's no reason to really go through the news too much here. We just kind of took a look at this, but yeah, like CAD CPI, got an 8:30 event, CAD CPI tomorrow. Not much Wednesday, got an 8:30 event, unemployment claims, GDP on Thursday, and then another 8:30 event, core PCE, just minor things that are, red folders, but not big volatility events. But, maybe an excuse to move money. So we're going to be watching we're lighter on the news this week as far as news catalyst or data release catalyst to push things around. Not a lot, but there's something. So what now? Back to this dollar. So it's going to be price action this week. We're watching for price action trades, just intraday stuff. Expect less volatility than normal, but just because we are going into Christmas, a lot of people slow down their trading about this time. It's just a normal thing toward the end of the year. It doesn't mean it stops, but some people slow down. And we've also talked about, we were just, again, talking about this. One of the biggest bull runs in gold I've ever seen happened on Christmas Eve when nobody was there. I think it was 2019. Nobody was in front of it. There was nobody that was able to do anything about it. And it did like $80 or $90 in one day, which at the time was a monster move. It was monster. Everybody's like, oh, nothing going to happen. Stupid trading over Christmas. And gold had one of the biggest days in its history on like Christmas Eve, which was hilarious. So it's a couple years ago. So it doesn't mean it's not going to move. It just doesn't mean that. There are no rules in trading. Sometimes when nobody's sitting in front of it and markets are thin, it's the best time to push something around. Just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean it's going to be dead, but we'll be here messing with it, making reasonable decisions with our capital. So dollar, that's the news situation, which is not much. leading up into the end of the month, into Christmas. In theory, you would expect slightly less volatility than normal. So, moving on. The dollar, we did lift off the low. It's coming off of a lower low. It's probably going to end up a little bit higher, but it's not a good entry. I'm going to skip that one for now. Yen. Just the general structure of the yen. Actually, let me look real quick. Is there anything that needs to be done here as far as the charts? I want to watch that. If we make it there, is that within range? Yep. Just so magically happens to be the weekly projected high right there. Of course it is. Okay, so everything's good there. We don't really need that. This is where your sellers were correct and have not been stopped out. So there's naturally gonna be some buy side liquidity right there. Good area to close longs if it were to make it up there. It's within weekly range, so we'll watch that. Just adjust our charts, see what needs to be changed. What has changed since last week, since we looked. The yen, probably a big range. That's what this was about, is just to illustrate the potential for us to be in a large range that hasn't fully developed yet, and probably retest the low. If you look at the general structure here, finally lifted off the low. Finally made it. It was like some ridiculous, like 13% or something like that. 12%. Yeah. So say if I remember correctly. Yeah. So like a 12+% move off the low in like a couple days, like a very short period of time. We waited for that. We waited and waited and waited and waited. It would be normal, for there to be some, whatever's going on here. It's already kind of rolled down a little bit and also broken a low. So we don't really want to heavily short this right now. I could see some kind of crap like that this week. It's not great. It's not the end of the world. It's not great. We'll come back to it. We'll look at it on lower time frames probably, for like group trade stuff or like day trades. Something to note on the yen is we did break the low. So it would be reasonable to expect that one of these next few candles could potentially be like a bullish candle. And sometimes you can capitalize on that stuff with a day trade, right? As long as you got a pretty good general idea on what direction it's going to travel, you can capitalize on that, get in and out. And once it moves, you just get out. There's a possibility there because it has broken a low. We'll take a look and see. Like if this comes back up in the range, maybe you get a couple candles to the upside. There's a possibility that the yen pulls back up here. But I think overall, at some point, it's likely to retrace lower, but it's not something you want to short right now. It's kind of no trade. Moving on. That's interesting. What's up with the dollar? Yeah, dollar's still bullish. Man, that was a good trade. We waited for this too. This Aussie dollar, if you go back and look at the last analysis video, we called this one. This was one of the few things we were watching. Aussie dollar off the low. Big run there. But it's already happened. We're on a higher high here. Mr. Slithery the snake. Slithering up the mountain. Goes up the mountain and down the mountain. Up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain, down the mountain, up the mountain. He wants to take a wild guess on what's next. So, higher and higher and higher and higher and higher he goes. So we'll watch this, we'll watch and see what's up. Maybe look at our highs of the day. What's to the left here? Is there anything we can get from the left? How far back in time? You're talking about going back 6 months. There's a logical limit here to what you can expect to still be on the books. How many people do you know that hold a position longer than 6 months? Mic drop. So, yeah, not really much to say here. We got a high. I would say if this spike high right here breaks, a lot of people are going to see that. That's going to start triggering things. just in its simplest form here, you know, we're kind of already in that supply. Not that I would put too much faith in that, but that's kind of what we've been in already. Assume that that's going to break. Looking at this because there may be a trade here. There may be something here, but I would maybe when that breaks, I don't know. Sometimes I'll put like an alert or something there. We'll watch that and see if it breaks that level. Then maybe I'll do something about it. Maybe like sell the high of the day every day and just until it pulls back, because we are on a higher high after a big run up. You know, there may be something here. You know, we're looking for what can we do with our capital, right? What is an efficient use of our capital? You know, if we run up here, make another higher high, it would be normal to pull back a little bit, but that pullback can be a very high probability day trade, and high probability is high profitability. So we'll come back to that. What else? We've been all over this. Murdered that one this week. Euro dollar. Got it again on the high. With the dollar, let's see here. You know, going back to the dollar index, flipping back to this because they're obviously directly related. You know, we would expect the dollar index to end up floating a little higher at some point. So in theory, euro dollar should float lower at some point. Now the question is going to be, do we jump back in it here or what? You know, where's the entry? That's always the question. You know, this was just one of our trades from last week, and ended up getting out of it. It's good. Actually ended up, you know, closing right there, and it chilled for a while. But now, you know, we got the new week started. You know, like this is invalid now. You know, I would wait and see if this pulls back up a little bit. Maybe it makes another lower high and goes down again. But as of right now, the dollar looks like it's kind of chilling. Let's get back to our 4 hours. I just wanted to look at it, see where it was from last week. Get this stuff out of the way. Look at structure. Yeah, I mean, nothing's really changed. You know, we sold off the high, and we're still waiting for our unresolved buyers lower. Kind of right in the middle. It's not really a good entry. However, one thing I can see potentially starting here is like this range like this. A lot of times on a high, cycle high, we get a spike like this, go into a consolidation, you get a second leg. Spike high, consolidation, second leg. Very sure you've heard me say this a billion times, especially in the group. So the aggressive play here is to be short. With a stop above the high here and just hope that it drops out. Hope the dollar stays bullish. Not really much here yet. Nothing's really changed. We've started to move off the high. We got that right. Nothing really changed. You know, we would just be targeting lower still. We would still be looking lower, but it just may not be the best entry short right now. There is a very good chance though that this is consolidating here to go lower. We'll come back to that. We'll leave it marked. Euro yen. What was the scenario with the yen? It looked like it was going to go up a little bit, possibly for a candle or two. Yeah. We are in a lower low. It would make sense to try to pop back up. So in theory, you know, we may want to be careful with this euro yen. Maybe this makes a lower high and does something like this and just further contracts, you know, further consolidates down here, but it's contracting. The market is contracting rather than expanding. We're squeezing in on itself. You know, we have lower highs and higher lows. Not that we do the trend line thing, but just to illustrate, you know, most of the time I'll just like circle it. You know, it's lower high, lower high, lower high, potentially lower high here, right? Higher low, higher low. You know, it's a range contraction. And that's not the ideal scenario. We want expanding markets, not contracting markets. So, you know, this is already down. We nailed this too. God, we had that right. Oh, man, we waited so long on these yen pairs. Just wish we would have YOLO'd them. But it's already down. You know, this is in structure. This is not really the best short for a day trade. If I was ultra aggressive, I would be looking to short this for a day trade as of right this second, but I would probably be out as soon as it went into the green. I think there's a good chance that this is going to contract in a little bit more and just kind of range down here, but eventually pop back up. Like what's probably going to happen is something like this, and it may do this and then end up, whatever. That could definitely happen. But as of right this second, it's not the best entry long, and it's not really a good short either because we are contracting. Not great overall. Come back to it. Euro pound, man, we've been waiting on this. We had it right, but we've been waiting on it. We've been long on this since right there, that first test. I think it was a couple Fridays ago, 2 Fridays ago at this point. Yeah, because I remember this was one of our Friday trades. Euro pound, Euro Aussie, and Euro Kiwi, I think it was at the time. But it took a while. This is interesting here. It took like 12, I think it was 12 days. Yeah. This is like, 11 or 12 days sideways in this range. It just did nothing. Nothing for almost 2 weeks. And then, whoop, there it goes. And now it wants to start running up. We still haven't resolved our higher supply. We've just been kind of, putting in this base layer consolidation. Looks like a market cycle starting up, and we had this right. Like if you go back and look at our analysis from last week, this is what we said. We had this right. Said consolidation here, higher level consolidation there. It was just messy, but we had the general structure right, and we were still expecting this to go higher. We were looking for a weaker pound, stronger euro, which is good. I feel good about it because it's, there wasn't much to trade on it really, but we've had it right. There are a lot of sellers right here, man. Just as a side note, like there's a lot going on right there. You could probably boil it down to that. There's just a lot of selling here. I wouldn't want to be entering long, and just for the very simple reason of what we were just saying. This is just a range consolidation right here. We're right at the top of it. Sellers on the top, buyers on the bottom. When you learn to see the markets like this, everything changes. Markets move in consolidations up and down. They step up and down in consolidations, and that's just what happens. It's not a long, so might be cautious here for a potential pullback. I would really rather see this kind of test this supply level up here that never got resolved, and maybe if it'll pop up there, like maybe if we have a big day to the upside, I might take the pullback on that. But at some point, depends on what happens. If this pulls back, at some point, we're probably going to end up there. So that's a thing. Hold on. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at it as the week goes on. Expect it to end up higher, but it's just not a good long right now. I don't know. We'll look at it on lower time frames. I could see it pulling back. So it could potentially be pound strength inbound, and we'll get to that in just a second. Let's see what else. Moving on. What are the main takeaways here that we need to pay attention to this week? What are we really looking for here? EuroCAD, waiting for this to trigger down here. Still got the alert ready. Big trade inbound. Nailed this one last week. Murdered it. Absolutely murdered that. 180 pips. I think it was like 184 pips on the actual trade. And it was 140 pips on pound CAD at the same time. This was, I think, a 320 pip total basket between the two. Just murdered it. That was trade of the week last week. Killed it. Either that or Euro dollar. Euro dollar was good, but this basket was the one. Just back into this dense consolidation. I'm going to wait and see if this breaks the low. This is one we were watching on Friday, actually, too, for a potential long. I mean, I would still rather be long here, but if this would break the low and end up triggering our last spot down here, I would actually be okay with that. This is one that we want to watch here. This is one of these trades where I bet we look at this later and champions will be made on this trade. We'll come back to this one. EuroCAD, as of this point, we're waiting to see how close we can get to the low of the day, maybe the hash mark today as far as range tool, like group strategy stuff. Buying the hash mark on a lower low is probably an aggressive but smart play. We'll come back to that. But watch for lows. Watch for any broken lows here on EuroCAD. There's a very good chance of at least some movement to the upside, at least something. And wouldn't it be crazy if it ended up doing this and goes like 400 or 500 pips, because all this is just a big range. We've talked about this. This is a big structural break right here, big structural inflection point right here. And what if it's the bottom of a range and runs all the way back up to retest a high to the tune of, 400 or 500 pips on a swing? Yeah. We know that this is coming at some point. At some point it will. And we're waiting to see if we're going to completely break consolidation or something. We're watching it down here on lower lows just to kind of throw you guys a bone. Big trade coming there. We're going to be catching it in the group. Euro Kiwi, range low. Same thing on the euro. A lot of the euro pairs are all saying the same thing still. Same analysis from 2-3 weeks ago at this point. 17 days ago it was the same thing. So we're just still back. We're still working the lows here on this euro Kiwi. But waiting to see assuming it's going to break the low, we'll just take it every low. But we want to be focusing on longs. There's no reason to start shorting this unless you see something like on a 1 minute chart or something. But we're not doing 1 minute chart stuff here. We're looking at general structure. What's the macro move that's likely to happen? What's the distance move with low risk, and what directional bias can we gain for the week? There's a higher probability this is going to end up higher than lower. So we're going to stick with that. Euro Aussie going to be very similar. It's just same thing. Looks like I took the line out because we're watching down here. It's just a big range low, very well defined. Bing, 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 like ping pong off the low. We're watching here. We're waiting to see if we tap into sell side liquidity here. We talked about this one last week, but the general structure is the same. We're down significantly on these euro pairs, and we're really starting to tap into major sell side liquidity pools down here. It's just is what it is. Down here below these consolidation lows like this, everybody's getting stopped out down here and having to sell back into the market at a lower price. So what better place to close shorts and what better place to go long than, splashing around in the beginner zone down here where everybody's trying to break out short and getting stopped out. Not much to say here. We're watching the lows. This is one of those things where we're trying to pick it up off the low every day until it goes back up. We'll come back to that. Next. Moving on. Pound. Hold on 1 second. Let me take a look at euro pound again. Okay, yeah. So euro pound is potentially on a range high. So the euro relative to the pound, this is one thing we want to understand. What's the euro likely to do relative to the pound before we analyze the pound? If the euro is likely to be weaker than the pound at some point, there's a possibility that we get a temporary weakness, but eventually it's going to pop both sides. So back to this. Hold on 1 second. Pound dollar. Pound dollar, obviously coming off the high. This was easy. We traded this last week short with euro dollar. We took pound dollar and euro dollar. I just don't have it marked. It was those two. Nailed it. Just absolutely nailed it. 142 pips in the green from our supply off the higher high, top of the weekly range. Very well defined range high up here. If you look at this on the macro, look out below. Look at this. You got a higher high, pullback, higher high, pullback, higher high, pullback, and struggled up, higher high, started to pull back, higher high into supply, structural inflection point right here. It's just, there's a high probability of a pullback. Now, here's the thing. This has already started the pullback. If you're still in this from last week, good game. Just in its simplest form, there's very weak demand right here. Weak. It's kind of an inflection point right here. You can see if you look back across, we don't need to get too crazy with it. We're just trying to understand structure here, but there is weak demand here. So I would probably be looking to, if this were to spike out and flush out lower, I'd probably be looking to close out short, and maybe there's a day trade long there. Also happens to be projected low of the 4-hour candle and the hash at the same, but we've got a lot of confluence here. We've got our 4-hour low. Statistically, we've got weak demand on the 4-hour, and we also have our hash, which we know algorithmically is an incredibly important level. So the aggressive play here, possibly buying on pound dollar on the hash today, with a stop on it. Just if you're listening and looking for something to do, there's a possibility of a bounce is what I'm saying. We've already come down just logically, we've already made a move down here, and maybe we get a candle to the upside, right? We only need one candle basically to have a successful day trade. And we're on a lower low, right? So there's just a very good chance that if this flushes out down here, maybe the next candle looks like that. And if we get it long right there on the low with extreme accuracy, depending on what's going on down here, lining up our confluence, we're probably going to get a good trade there. So that's something to watch, possibly. So there's a maybe. What was that? I don't know what that was. But, that's down. Obviously, pound CAD, I'm not in this trade. Not in any of these anymore. Interesting. Maybe I think that was a potential option to take, is probably what it was. It probably made sense on lower time frames. But yeah, okay, we broke the low here on pound CAD. Actually, probably want to start looking here probably want to start watching for something to reject. Looking for the lows. Gosh. This is just already, I would say right there, it's already in some demand as far as just very simple supply and demand goes. You're looking at something like this, roughly. And then the question is going to be how far down, and it's, last chance scenario down there. How does that line up? That's going to be an extended day. So possibly be looking to buy the low of the day down here, maybe equal or barely broken low. I don't know. It doesn't look great at the moment. This is invalidated, so we can change this. This is going to be a good trade. Looks like Euro CAD looks a little better. So the pound is weaker. But that makes sense because, if you look at Euro pound, the pound has been weaker than the euro. The euro pound is up. It's been up. But that may change temporarily. So this may be going the other way here very soon. As the euro and the pound change, their dynamic shifts. The relationship between those two, the directional relationship. I don't know. We'll watch this. What was that? Oh, I think I was holding the down arrow. Whoops. Where is that? Back to pound CAD. Yeah, so we'll watch the low of the day down here today. Probably going to be something down here. This kind of stuff, I love this stuff. When something is just way down and it starts pushing on levels and breaking levels down here, we'll watch it and see. But once it gets down here, we'll wait for some kind of is just very likely going to be some kind of a pullback at some point this week. I'm sure it's going to, pull back at least a little bit, even if it makes a lower high. Sometimes you got to go up to go down. So, you know what I mean? Know what I mean, Vern? Yeah, got a structural inflection point right here, very clearly. Yeah, we'll watch that. I think it looks like the pound may be a little weaker than the euro component here. So as this goes lower, we're probably going to try to pick that up off the low with EuroCAD. But yeah, the pound looks like it's going to be a little weaker. So that's important. We'll come back to that. Pound yen, man, I wish I would have taken this on the low, man. Because this is probably going to go up and retest these highs. We still never retest. We have unresolved highs up here. Gosh. Good game. This was a monster move off the top. It was 1,000 pips, guys. This was 1,000 pip move off the higher high, Mr. Slithery. In 12, 13 days, it just pushed 1,000 pips straight down. Good game, but then it just, this last week, it broke the low, and we talked about this at the time, and I didn't take it. I remember looking at it, but popped back up. It would be normal for this to, whatever this is doing, to start to stabilize here and start to work its way higher to possibly make it even a lower high. So that would be normal. Eventually this is going to end up dying probably. I don't know if it's even going to make it that far, but as of right now, it's just, the price action doesn't look good. Obviously you got rejections on the top end. It's just not a good, it's not a good long entry necessarily right now. Yeah, I don't know. I would wait and see if this pulls back a little bit. It's not a good long entry right now. I would say if this pulls back into that demand level, then maybe probably adjust that a little bit. Nothing's really changed here since last week. Nothing's changed. We've kind of consolidated for a couple days. Not much to say on pound yen. It is one of my least favorite pairs to trade, honestly, because understanding the way that it moves. It's just not it. There's better stuff to risk your capital on. It can be good when the yen is doing the right thing, but the pound and the yen end up working out the same direction a lot of times, and it can be really messy. It can be choppy and then explosive. Dollar yen's kind of the same way. Very similar. Pound Swiss, don't really mess with this one much. This has been one of the lowest volatility pairs in a while. This spent this 6-month stint in prison here where it just went sideways. It was 3 months. 3 months of nothing. Unbelievable. This didn't do anything for 3 months. It traded within a half of a weekly range or something ridiculous. For 3 months, nothing. And it's just back into the same thing. It's just not really doing much right now. So I would say, if this would end up flushing out lower and maybe resolving some of this stuff down here, maybe we'll pick it up for a bounce. Right now, I would expect this is probably going to try to flush a little lower. It's not a good short entry. Let's skip this one right now. It's probably closer to the low than to the high, though. So this is maybe one maybe tomorrow or something. If this will push down here and maybe put in a low of the day or low of the week or something. How far down? Low of the week. So, okay. So the weekly low is right there on our unresolved buyers that have not been stopped out. They have not been retested since they held. So possibly buying the low of the week here. And it may be a short until then. If you really want to be super aggressive, it's hard to short something that's on the low. And I normally see something like this and I'll just leave it alone and be like, well, it's already down, right? We're already down here on the bottom. I'm not going to start selling it now. It's not an efficient use of capital to do that. I'll just shift my capital to something else that's better. I'm not going to take an extreme risk on something just to get a trade. There's probably something better to do. And that's the thing. And also, just in its simplest form, I don't expect this to be very strong. But right here, you've just very clearly have buyers that have held in the past. Do you really want to be that guy or that girl or whatever? I guess we identify as now in 2023 going into 2024. Do you want to be that person that buys the low? Yeah, probably not. Or sells the low. That's what I meant. You want to be, you do want to be that person to buy the low. But as far as selling the low, probably not a great idea to start pouring into this short, because then what if you get, what if this stops here and the next candle pulls back up like that and you're short down here? Even if it does end up going lower, it's just not it. Whoops. It's just not it. Maybe it's not the right move, So I would say if this would run lower, maybe pick it up off the low or wait for pullbacks. If you're going to try to sell it, probably just leave it alone, honestly, but it's worth looking at because of where it is. Pound Aussie. Boy, do we have that right. Good Lord. We had that one right. Spike high consolidation, second leg in the move. If anybody remembers where we got in the other day, we're looking for the second leg in the move, coming off the top of the range. Whoops. Gotta zoom in to see it. We were short up here on that call, on the structural call. This was one of the most correct trades we have had in a minute. We have a lot of them. We honestly have a lot of them. We're right a lot. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. But we're right a lot, guys. Like a lot. That's 450 plus pips off the high. And if we go back to that day, and this was a structural call, and it was the right thing to do to sell the high of the day. We got it within, I think it was 4.2. Yeah. We caught the high within 4 pips off the structure call to break the low. We're looking at a potential 1,000 pip swing here. I'm not in this trade anymore because I had to close out on Friday on my account, my live, but the prophecy has been fulfilled. We're still going down, breaking the low, and the point here was just selling off the top of the consolidation. It was so easy to see it. We're just another lower high off the top of the consolidation, nailed it off the range tool, and down she goes. And that's the thing, taking the risk, selling the top of the consolidation, because the overall structure is likely to continue much, much lower than it even is right now. But we don't want to start selling it now, obviously. This looks like it's going to go down and break the low and then probably pull back up, but we're probably in for a move here. This is probably going to eventually, whatever this is going to do, it'll probably consolidate and fail, and then have a big shift away from it and probably break that low right there. This is likely going to continue. So this is something that we probably want to pay attention to. Pound Aussie, pound Kiwi, I think was the same scenario. Pound Aussie was the better entry at the time, but same thing here. Range consolidation coming off of a spike high, and we're looking for the second leg of the move to come back and break some structural low. It's just very common market cycle. This is the market cycle playing out. This looks like the top of the market cycle. That's what it looks like. Now, history is written, we'll see how right that is. But what we don't want to do is sell it now, right? We don't want to be the person who sells the bottom. Whether or not it goes lower doesn't really matter as much to me personally. And again, this is a personal thing. I look at probability is probably one of the most important things. And what I see here is very clearly this. We'll just loosely define this as this. Do you want to sell this here? You know what I mean? On the macro nested range, do you want to sell the bottom? Or do you want to make money? You know what I mean? Which one is it going to be? You got to choose. Do you want to be a shark or a little fishy? Do you want to be a lion or a gazelle? You're going to have to choose. As traders, we talk about this all the time. Which one are you going to be? You're going to be a winner or a loser? Are you going to be a smart trader, or dumb trader? Are you going to be smart money or dumb money? Which one is it? Great movie, by the way, Dumb Money. If you haven't seen it, watch that. It was definitely worth it. They did a good job on it. The GameStop saga movie, Dumb Money. It was better than I thought it was going to be. They actually did a really good job of it. If you haven't seen it, it's worth it. Recommended. Yeah. So obviously, you know, this was a good short, but we don't want to sell the bottom. Just going over that again. Let's see. Let's see. What next? What is this? CAD yen. Hold on a second. Let me take another quick look at the yen. I remember it was okay. Yeah, we're on a lower low here. We don't want to really sell this, but it is like this is like having a rough day here on the yen. But it made sense. This made sense to sell off the top. So you would expect it to go a little bit lower, but we don't really want to sell it now because it would be also normal to have a pullback after this candle just broke this little swing low. So going back to the yen, I just wanted to take another quick look at the yen here. So that makes sense that this is up. CAD yen, just right off the rip here, just very easy to see structural inflection point here is what I like to call it, where there was clearly an inflection point where something changed. And there's like this equilibrium here where something is clearly moving around this level. There's like a decision point here logically over time, and you can see it. Markets are collectively making a decision around this level. You can see it. Hold on. Let me let it pop out real quick. Crying to get out. I'm about to yell at him. Actually let him out. 1 second, buddy. Hold on, dude. Hold on, big man. We'll let you out in just a minute. I think everybody woke up here and he wants to go out and check it out. CAD yen. Okay, here's what we'll do. This is going to be obvious right here. Just watch this whole issue right here. I mean, there's a whole sliding zone there, but just in case that pulls back, I wouldn't want to be long here. There's not really much to do here on this right this second. We're right in between, kind of right in between. Skip that one. Gonna move through this a little quicker. Swiss yen, this one's coming off the all-time high. This was just one of the best positions probably of the year right here. Back when we had this a couple months ago, like a month ago, this was probably one of the best positions of the year. It was the all-time high, and it was just obvious, and it ended up being right. Yeah, not much to say there. Good game. It's a good game off the all-time high. I mean, we basically got a whole low here that I would say this is your invalidation point on this, and if we go below that, then would close whatever you got. But at the same time, on pullbacks, I could understand a long, like possibly retesting. Like, we'll say this comes up here and like starts to pull back and does this kind of thing. If it'll give you a lower entry, I might even attempt a long on that to just run it a little higher to retest the high and then expect it to sell off. You know, we'll come back to that. Hold on 2 seconds. 1 second. Let me open the door so you can get out. 1 second. All right. Puppy management. He's whining to get out. He's going to drive me nuts until I let him out. Next. What's next? Everybody leave. Dollar CAD. Watching this one. This is definitely one that we're watching. We still have an alert from last week. Big potential trade opportunity here. Notice that a lot of the CAD pairs. The CAD pairs are down on these big broken lows. They're just very likely going to retrace back up. You know, This is a big bone getting thrown to YouTube here. If you're not part of the group, watch these CAD pairs. You make some money this week. Going on over the next few weeks. Watch the CAD pairs. Dollar CAD, obviously, because it's down a lot. Watching this one for sure. We're waiting on some stuff. We're waiting on these to break. See how these line up with our ranges. This was last week's level, but it's probably still valid as far as supply and demand is concerned. Let me actually look at the daily and the weekly. Don't really need to, but and just to see if it makes sense. Yeah, I mean, we're just already in it. Now we're in that last chance where your buyers were correct. I mean, we're in it. So probably resolve that down, or hold on. Take a look here. To the daily, that's probably good enough. So we can probably refine that a little bit, boil it down. I don't normally need to go any lower than the 4 hour. So somewhere in here, if we break the low, probably want to be looking at this, see if this makes sense. Let me put an alert on the hash here. So I know if we hit that hash today, what we're looking for. Anything lower than that, anything down here, I'm going to probably be looking to position on that. We'll watch the CAD stuff too and see how that lines up. We'll see how it lines up with Euro CAD and Pound CAD as well. Pound CAD was the one that was the deeper low at the moment, but you can start to see these playing out. Don't be surprised if these start ripping back the other way. Euro CAD, Pound CAD, Dollar CAD, they're all starting to make sense on lower lows here, just for a retracement, but it's a high probability retracement, and that's the key. It's the high probability that makes it profitable. Moving on. There's nothing I need to do with my chart here. Probably not. Obviously we'll watch the high supply here. Sellers that have not been taken out. I don't know what's below us here within range, within the weekly range. Quick check here. I mean, it's possible that gets roasted, but I doubt it. I think this is much higher probability it's going to bounce back to the upside than to the downside. Watch these CAD pairs this week. Remember I said that. Remember that. Write that down. S&P, bonkers, completely out of pocket. Just a massive range expansion off the low, huge. Just out of pocket is what we'll classify that. We'll file this one under out of pocket. Yeah. Nothing to say. We're watching the high every day on this. You can wait for it to start going the other way. There's nothing wrong with that. It's kind of gone up and gone flat again, which suggests a spike high. So we'll watch the high again. This hasn't rolled over yet. It's contracting, just in its simplest form, kind of range contraction. That's not necessarily good. When you get reduced volatility over time, progressively reduced volatility is what that is. We want expanding markets, not contracting markets. It wouldn't surprise me if it tries to do something like this and just kind of expand its current range a little bit, but still a range. So don't be surprised if this expands a little bit. I bet you that's exactly what it's going to do. We'll come back to that. As of right now, there's no decision here. God, I don't know what's going to happen here. If it's just going to go for it or not. I mean, good game. Nobody expected that. Nothing to say. Who would have thought that it was going to do that at the end of the year with no fundamental reason? Like, economy's not great right now. Like, it's just not. So But we've seen in the past that doesn't matter. The economy and the stock market are just not related. They're just not related no matter what. I just, after COVID, it's just impossible to convince me. Like, watching what happened with COVID, the markets during COVID, it's just impossible to convince me that they're related, like in some meaningful way. It's speculative investing is what this is. This is pure speculation. That's all it is. The AI move helped a couple months ago, earlier in the year. That helped hold things up. And this is just, it feels just like froth on the top. Feels frothy. Just big expansion. There's no real fundamental reason here why. Like, there's always some excuse. You know, say, oh, well, you know, blah, 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 blah. This company had a good quarter or whatever, or, you know, there's just really no explanation for this stuff. It's just speculative investing, and that's great. That's good. I'm not arguing against that. That's what we want. That's how we make money. Speculative investing is great. The American way. it's the capitalist free market, baby. Let's go. Do whatever you want with your money. Yeah, but big range expansion down. This is important, coming off of a lower low like that to make that big of a move. Like, this is just incredible. This Dow Jones. There's nothing to say. I mean, it's the same thing as last week. Last week it was probably about up here. Same thing. And it was just still a monster move. And it's just still this week. Again, man, this is really, really looking crazy though. Like, do you really want to do you want to buy this here? Do you want to buy the all-time high after that, after this move? Do you want to buy the all-time high now after that? Bruh, like, this is wild. I don't know, like, who's buying up here? Like, or who's going to tell them? Who's going to tell them? Like, 401k is about to burn to the ground. Everybody buying up here. Unfortunate. People are about to get wrecked on this. I'm telling you, people are going to get wrecked on this, buying the top. Nothing to say. We'll watch the top. Yeah, we are on the high. We're opening the week at an all-time high on the Dow Jones. So good game. We'll give it a round of applause for being a savage, and not really much to say. It, you know, tried to short it last week. It didn't go anywhere. There's nothing to do on it right now, and wait and see. It's at the same level it was at the time. You know, we're selling the top. It hasn't moved. So, I don't know. Nothing to do. Just watch the high of the day every day. Every time it makes a higher high, it's that much closer to the trade of the year. And I mean that in a literal sense. So, watch this one, man. This all eyes on stonks. All eyes on stonks, not stonks right now. Not stonks. Let's get out our not stonks. Let's bust out the old not stonks again. Not stonks. Careful. Danger, Will Robinson. NASDAQ, same thing, obviously. You know, they're all same structural move. NASDAQ's pushing its all-time high. I think this red level is the all-time high. Yep. All-time high on the NASDAQ. You know, good game. I mean, it's a good game that it's up here, but it's just so dangerous that there's no responsible decision here to be made long. I mean, it's just going to leave it at that. Like, it's hard to justify buying this. On a side note, this price action is not great, where you get this big kind of M at the top with that kind of, you know, it's almost like Adam and Eve kind of situation. That just doesn't look good. You know, again, we'll watch it on the high. At this point, the all-time high is right here. Assume that it's going to break, and assume that after it does, it's going to do something like that. I don't know. I'm not saying long here, because that can be painful to be so sure that it's going to break that high, and then it doesn't, and it does that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to. There's no law that says it's required to break the all-time high. So just be cautious with it. The Dow already has broken. The S&P isn't as close as the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ's pretty close. We're within like a daily range. We're within a half a daily candle of breaking the all-time high. So it would be normal if it did. And if it does break the high, we'll be watching for the rollover. You can wait. You can wait for a confirmation, wait for it to shift off the high, wait for the shift bar off the high. We kind of already got one here. And it's struggled up to it. It's just, I look at this and there's no way that I'm buying it. I'm just not going to do it. Like this is very weak price action, and there's really no effective argument against that. Like it's very weak. Now the question is going to be, what cowboy gunslingers are going to come in and try to buy this to break the all-time high, or you know what I'm saying? Like how is the cavalry coming to try to pop the high or not? Moving on. Oil, not much to say. We're almost done here. Almost through it. Kind of waiting for the market to open anyway. Oil has been good so far. This is one of those big trades in the market where we want to catch this. This is one of those where we know it's going to happen, and we got to like suffer through the noise until it actually goes. We know that this is going to be a big trade here. We're looking at a 20 to 30% move on oil. The question is going to be, was that it? Or already got an alert set waiting for the next level lower on the break of consolidation. It's like the extreme last chance here, but eventually this is going to come up. I mean, this is a much larger time frame move. We've had a very, very large move down here off the low, and eventually this is going to start putting in higher lows, and it's going to start coming up here, and it's going to test this right here, and it's going to be party time in here. We're going to say, remember oil. And it's one of those where you'll forget about it for a little bit. It'll be down here kind of consolidating. You'll forget about it. And then all of a sudden, one day you'll look at it and it's that. It's like, well, there went oil. It went today. It'll do like double a daily candle and just rip all of a sudden. And you'll realize that the entry was back here the first time. You just had to sit and wait for it. That's exactly how this works. Sometimes it takes a little bit before it actually goes, but the entry was much earlier. We'll watch it. It's consolidating right now. If for some reason this does break the low, I would love that. That would be a better position. I'm going to scale into this one until it goes. We're watching oil. It's obviously one of the highest priorities because of the structure of it. It's just very likely that it ends up higher than it is at some point. For many reasons, fundamental reasons and technical reasons. Like oil is one where you have fundamentals and technicals that are in line at the moment. Gold, moving on. Last one on the list. The big one, gold. Not much to do here. Good game. This last move whatever this was last week or a couple weeks ago, that kind of messed the chart up. That kind of messed things up. You have a lot of traders trapped at some extreme levels. You have a very, very wide range here. It's like more than a monthly candle's worth of movement in a very short period of time. It moved a month's worth of distance in 16 hours. That's true. I remember this. This went from high to low, more than a monthly candle range in 16 hours, I think it was, which is insanity. I think it was the pop up. So this thing has really just completely blown the range out. So, there's a lot of stuff that's going on, a lot of settlement that's happening here. There's people trapped long, way up. There's people trapped short, way down. We're just kind of trading inside of that range. It's not really, I don't know, man. I think gold's messed up for a little bit, guys. I think the price action on gold is going to be messed up for a while, until we can start pushing on a low or pushing on back on the high. At the moment, we're still in this dense area. You can see here across where there's just the area of where the majority of the price action density has been. The majority of the activity has been all in this area, just kind of hovering around the low 2000s. you can see that like the candle density here, most of it is all in the same level. So it's something to take note of. Right now, just on lower time frames, this will make more sense. You start to see a consolidation lower than the previous consolidation. It doesn't look good. It looks like it's stepping down, but kind of no trade at the moment. I wouldn't want to short this here probably. Maybe we'll look at it on lower time frames and see if we can catch a day trade out of it. Maybe we'll see something on lower time frames. Look at the weekly. This kind of feels like it's sideways. I don't know. Not great. This feels like for the next couple weeks, this is just going to kind of do this and not really go anywhere. Probably have smaller than average weekly candles in a consolidation. Let's see. What's up with that daily? Yeah, that's not good. Got a big nasty engulfing candle on the daily. It's pulled back. We're obviously going to watch center mass here. Center mass of our this. You can see exactly where that rejected. You could even measure it. And see to the pip, center mass rejection to the pip. Same thing we've been teaching for years. But that's strategy stuff, so there you go. It's not looking great at the moment. Our invalidation point is going to be like right here, the current high here. I would watch this. Is this going to hold? If you look at the range tool, you'll see this previous weekly center mass. Just went right to it and rejected. I would say that's going to be our invalidation point. Anything below this, and we're going to be short. Really, it's the same strategy we've been doing for years, literally. As long as we're below this, previous day's center mass, it's going to be a short. So you're looking for shorts at level until that's invalidated. And when it gets invalidated, we'll explore another option. But as of right now, as far as strategy is concerned, you're short until it closes higher. But I would probably just leave it alone, to be honest, until maybe the dollar might make sense in a different level. And we know that they're related. But if you look at the dollar, we got this little consolidation going with no clear direction. This could just as easily pull back and make a higher low. This could just as easily pop higher and then pull back into some larger expanded range. Like, this isn't the best place to make a decision from right now. And it is Monday morning, close to Christmas and the end of the month. We're very aware of our market environment here. We're aware of our environment, and we know that we want to at least pay a little more attention than normal here. Keep our heads on a swivel, because, if we're making higher risk decisions with our capital, we're in an environment where we're already aware that it's likely to be less volatility. We just want to be careful. We want to exercise a little more caution than normal in this market environment. Bitcoin hasn't changed much since we talked about it. So what's the big takeaway here? What are the Cliff's notes here? What's the cheat code takeaway for as of right now? I hate to let you guys down, but not much has changed here. We're kind of waiting to see what's going to happen. It's Monday morning. We don't have a lot of news this week. There's not a lot of big money moving events, but there's something. There's stuff. There's stuff to do. Not much today, but there is stuff. There's going to be some 8:30 events like CAD CPI tomorrow. That maybe we get something out of that. Maybe we can get pre-positioned on the CAD. We're watching that anyway. So I think the Canadian dollar is going to be a good potential this week. We got stuff like final GDP and whatever it was, core PCE on Friday. Just be aware that we're rolling into Christmas. Expect less volatility than normal. We already know that we're watching some things. As far as the dollar stuff, like the big ones, like the dollar, gold, low volatility right now, uncertain on the direction. Going back to gold here, it's a little uncertain on the direction at the moment. Chart's kind of funky here because we could just have a big, huge expanded range, and we're kind of right in the middle of it. We're right in the middle, right back in the density. There's no real clear positional advantage as far as our directional bias is concerned. What direction should we be looking for here? There's no real clear answer yet, because we are kind of back to that equilibrium. So from a neutral position, there's really no clear direction is one way to explain that. The dollar kind of supports that. We are coming off a lower low on the dollar. My guess is the dollar is going to end up higher, but it may not be the best entry right now. And also the dollar, we're talking about that because it affects gold. Gold and the dollar kind of move counter to each other. So we'll see what's up with that. Not really much to say on gold right now. There is an argument to be made of this right now. You could potentially make the argument with little evidence that this could potentially be the low of a consolidation, and maybe we're going to run up and retest that. If I had to choose, I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's aggressive to be long gold because we're still below that, what we were just looking at. We're still below that center mass. It's the daily candle. It just doesn't look good. I mean, we got a big nasty here on the daily. This looks like it's trying to reject, like pull up here and reject. And then, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see how this daily candle closes. If the daily candle closes below that center mass, it's not really going to be a good look for gold. So, and that would be consistent with the dollar going higher like we already looked at. So, I don't know. We're going to get to this though. We're going to watch it. It's still Monday. It's early on Monday. Not much has happened yet. Again, the Cliffs Notes are not much direction on the dollar. The stock market indices are just out to lunch, like full on like mental health issue up here, like buying the top, like, not to, I guess I shouldn't make fun of stuff like that, but at the same time, there's some truth to it. Like, what are y'all doing up here trying to buy this, basically? I'd like to study the cross sections of the brain of the people who are buying up here. Let's do a scientific study on top buyers. What is their reasoning and their logic? What is their brain chemistry? I don't know. But good game to the longs. And it was, what's crazy is, we were long on this all week, last week. I don't know if anybody caught this last week, but we were long, I think 3 days. 3 of the days were long calls on the stock market indices until that last pump right here, until this. And then it was like, okay, time to start selling into it on the all-time high. But when this came up and went flat, it's a long call. Comes up and goes flat, it's a long call. Comes up, we're struggling here. We're not really flat. We're like, this is sketchy, man. This is sketchy price action. Don't be surprised if people's feelings get hurt on this week. Thought it was going to happen at the end of the week last week. I thought, like FOMC, I was hoping for a big slap down and it didn't happen. But, man, my stomach growling. We're going to watch this on the high. I would probably expect some spike high, but then also some smackdown. We're going to watch this. As far as the big takeaways here, stock market indices are like all eyes on the stock market here. Careful. Be a lion, not a gazelle. Be the shark, not the little fishy. Understand where we are in the universe. Watch the CAD stuff. Dollar CAD, super interesting. Look at the dollar is low and it's likely to gain. Look at where dollar CAD is, coming off of a big lower low down here. Like, this is just obvious stuff. This is one that's just obvious. The CAD, basket of the CAD, dollar CAD, pound CAD, euro CAD. As far as what we could do this week, we're still long on the long call was from Friday. If you were going to take something at the end of the day on Friday, euro CAD, pound CAD is, what we put in the chat. But at the same time, euro CAD's up and pound CAD isn't. So, we're watching this. We're looking probably to buy the low of the day every day. Mr. Slithery the snake goes down the mountain, he goes up the mountain, he goes lower down the mountain, he goes up the mountain, he goes lower down the mountain, he goes up the mountain, he goes lower down the mountain. I'll leave it up to y'all to figure out what's next in the sequence. So that's really the main takeaway at the moment. I think a pound Swiss. Not really much else to do at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Like there's a lot of euro pairs that are down on the low still. Just the euro in general is down. Euro Aussie, Euro Kiwi, both down on lower lows, in the money. Like it's just time to watch those things. I feel like Euro CAD is just like a face melter inbound. It just hasn't really happened yet. But yeah, watch the CAD. Stonks, not stonks right now. But also at the same time, we're pushing on these all-time highs. It depends on what your trading goals are. Just cautious. Caution is the word of the week. Because of where these stock market indices are, and we know that they're the main driver of the markets, caution is going to be the word of the week. But we're going to catch some day trades here. We're going to figure it out. At the moment, it's a little bit slow, but we're going to figure it out. We'll move into lower time frames here. I'll post this up for people to see later, for YouTube people and for group people to come back and watch later. Let me close this video off. Everybody have a good trading week. Try to put some pips in the bag. Caution is the word of the week. Careful with crypto. Careful with the stock market. For the same reason. I think that's going to be it. We'll check in later in the week. Everybody have a good week, and see you later.